We have internalized unhealthy love stories through families, generational patterning, society, what we're taught in schools, institutions, on our social media, in film, cultural context, religion. So many of the stories we have been taught about love in those situations are actually really unhealthy. And as a result, the outcome of that is we are experiencing a lot of unhealthy love relationships that do not feel good for us, that do not serve our highest good. And I want to be part of the movement to change that. And you can tell, right? I sound so passionate about this. Welcome back to Medusa's Mic. My name is Lucretia, and I am so very honoured that you have decided to drop by and spend some time with me again today. This is the place where we have conversations about how to create uncompromising connections with ourselves and with others in our lives. Because let's face it, we are taught all the time, particularly women, particularly girls, to contort and mold ourselves into all kinds of shapes and designs to get love, to try and reach that thing that we so want, which is that deep love connection with another human being. But contorting ourselves in that way, molding ourselves to suit a model that we believe someone else wants us to be, does not give us the connections we want. It doesn't give us the connections we deserve and desire. And we, on the daily, see evidence of that everywhere. But we all want it, right? We all want love. And what I find really interesting is that we have so many conversations about sex and relationships and marriage and dating, relationship styles. We have all these conversations so often, but we very rarely talk about love. And what is it? And is our definition and how we view love, is it even healthy for us? And what I want to suggest to you really strongly, and it's something I feel really passionate about, is that what a lot of us have taught love is actually really unhealthy. We have internalized unhealthy love stories through families, generational patterning, society, what we're taught in schools, institutions, on our social media, in film, cultural context, religion. So many of the stories we have been taught about love in those situations are actually really unhealthy. And as a result, the outcome of that is we are experiencing a lot of unhealthy love relationships that do not feel good for us, that do not serve our highest good. And I want to be part of the movement to change that. And you can tell, right? I sound so passionate about this because I really am. So many things that we are taught about love, I believe, are unhealthy and plain wrong. And we really need to start doing the journey as individuals to understand what is healthy love. Healthy love when it comes to how we treat ourselves and love ourselves, and healthy love in how we connect with others. Because I firmly believe that if we can start to do that work, unravel all the unhealthy narratives we've been told and recognize that they were never true to start with, that they are not serving us, and start to work out what is healthy, I believe that if we can do that work, we actually are going to create better communities. We're going to create a better planet, a better place to live. Because when you love yourself in healthy ways, you are more likely to love others in healthy ways too. And I actually believe that this is one of the reasons why we have the issues around sexual violence in our communities. because people are often not taught what healthy love is. They're taught unhealthy love messaging, and then they take that into their relationships, sometimes with catastrophic outcomes. So, healthy love, what is it? Well, I'm going to give you an exercise and a couple of questions to consider today. And I'm hoping it will help you to get on the journey to understanding more about what healthy love is for you. And this is the first point I want to make. It's that your definition of what healthy love is going to be different to someone else's. And that makes sense, right? Because, hello, we're all individuals. It's not a groupthink situation. Healthy love to you is going to have nuances that are different to how someone else defines healthy love for themselves. That's okay, and that's to be expected. And when you do this work around what healthy love is to you, also know that it's not a competition. It's not something that you need to worry about getting right. You're not going to get judged on it. Because I do find that sometimes when I'm doing work, this kind of deep work with people, they think they have to get it right. And there's this anxiety attached to it. Please don't do that to yourself. Instead, what I want to suggest is that you consider this is not a test. Consider that there is no exam at the end of this session. There is no judgment attached to this activity from yourself or from anyone else. And you don't ever have to tell anyone else what you come up with today. The second thing is, and this is the one question that I want you to consider, and you might want to pause after I say this question and do some journaling around it, and then, reflect on it over the coming days and weeks and see what bubbles to the surface, because you're probably going to find that as you delve into these ideas more and more, you're going to get increasing clarity for yourself, which is perfect, right? That's what we want. I want you to consider the question, what does healthy love mean to me? And when you ask yourself this question, this is not about what someone else gives you materially. So if you think about it in the context of an intimate connection with another human being that you are in relationship with, in partnership with, think about it in that context for this exercise today. What does healthy love mean to me, mean to you, in the context of this intimate partnership? What does it mean? It doesn't mean that they have lots of money, that they, do this for a job, they come from this family background, they believe in this faith. That's not what I'm getting at here. I want to separate those things out because that's an overlay that's unnecessary. I want us to go deeper with this question. What does healthy love mean to you? I'll give you an example, right? For me, healthy love has a number of different aspects, and a couple of the key ones are I'm always treated with respect. I'm always treated with kindness. I am treated with compassion, and I am not controlled. I am accepted as who I am, even when I do not show up in a way that is easy. These are some of the aspects that I believe are in a healthy love connection for me. And they are very much connected to how I feel when I am in that intimate connection. And I'd suggest that you start with that. Start with the feelings. What does healthy love mean to me? Well, healthy love means to me that I feel these types of things. And you can also then follow up with the second question. What does healthy love not mean to me? Or more specifically, probably an easier question, more elegantly phrased, what does unhealthy love look like for me? And then you can start to really extrapolate out those things. And as you sit with both those questions, and I want you to do them in that order. I want you to start with the positive. What does healthy love mean to me? And then after you've done the reflection, whatever, however long that takes you to do, after you've done that, then I want you to move to the unhealthy love side of things. Once we start to do this unraveling and ask these deeper questions of ourselves, you're going to start to have light bulb moments about some of your previous relationships and why they didn't work, why they didn't feel good. And also, if you are being really honest with yourself, and this is probably going to be uncomfortable. In fact, it usually is. No shame or judgment around that. But what you're going to do is you're going to start to reflect also on your behavior, because this isn't just about how the person you're in partnership with treats you. It's also about how you treat them. And that's why once you start to do these kinds of practices around understanding what healthy love is for yourself, you start to then, in the moment as you go along, start to really look at your own behaviors and the behaviors you are on the receiving end of. And you can begin to ask yourself on the regular, am I behaving in a healthy way in this situation? Are these behaviors I'm being subjected to healthy? Is this person behaving in a healthy way towards me? And once we start to really look at our relationships through that kind of lens and framework, that is so empowering for us in a relationship dynamic. Because at the moment, and you probably heard me talk about this in previous episodes, at the moment, particularly for women, instead of asking ourselves, is this healthy for me? Is this a healthy love dynamic for me? Instead of doing that, what we invariably do, much more commonly, is we look at the behaviors we are on the receiving end of. We look at those behaviors through the lens of how we feel about that other person. So we look at the behaviors through this lens of, oh, I love him, but I love him. And so instead of looking at the behaviors, we are clouding our own vision through our feelings. And that is, honestly, it's a great way for us to bypass the reality of situations. And I know that's harsh, but seriously, I can say this because I've also done it, right? I am not an innocent party here, okay? We all do this stuff, right? Because we've been taught to do it, which is why I'm talking about it now, because we all need to unravel this stuff. But when we look at behaviors through the lens of how we feel about the person, we are not doing ourselves any favors. Because in doing so, we are very frequently, far too often, excusing the behaviors, bypassing the behaviors, and instead viewing things in a way that makes us feel better about being treated poorly, being treated disrespectfully, or in the worst case scenarios, being treated abusively. This does not help us to get the relationships we deserve and desire. It doesn't. We've been taught it does. Like, think about how many films we've seen where the man behaves appallingly, disrespectfully, lies, abuses, disrespect, everything, right? And then all he has to do at the end is rock up and say, I love you. And she goes, oh, thank you. I love you too. And they live happily ever after, because she's seen his behavior through the lens of how she feels. But I can guarantee you that if that character, if that person has behaved in these destructive ways and doesn't acknowledge the behaviors, apologize for the behaviors, commit to actively work on themselves to prevent those behaviors ever occurring again, if that person doesn't do all those things, then they're going to keep repeating their behaviors. And all you're doing in that situation is creating an environment for those behaviors to continue, and more specifically, creating an environment where you will continue to be on the receiving end of those behaviors, right? And honestly, like we are taught this. We are conditioned to behave this way in our love relationships. So you're not alone. Nothing to feel guilty about. Don't judge yourself harshly. You might be tempted to. I get it. Been there. But don't. Try not to, right? Try to approach this with self-compassion. But also, like, this is your invitation to get real with yourself about these messages you've received that you've internalized, that now you're applying in your life, and they have not helped you to get the beautiful love connections that you deserve and desire. But I want to help you to get those. So this is our starting point. Those 2 questions. Ask yourself, reflect on them, write it down. I find that honestly, journaling is one of the best ways to capture this stuff, and try to do it by hand, old school, pen, paper, crayon, paper, I don't care, pencil, paper, whatever works for you, right? If you are more of an artistic type person, you might even want to draw pictures to, represent how healthy love would feel for you, how it would look, and then how it would look after that, and then what unhealthy love would means to you, and then, how it would feel and how it would look. And always remember, this is not about material possessions. It's not about money. It's not about status. It's not about faith, as in organized religion. This is about things that are far deeper than that. We're going deep with this. And in doing so, you are committing to go on a journey to understand yourself better. And then as you move through this and as you expand this self-knowledge, you will then be able to look at your connections in different ways, in ways that are going to be more in alignment with your best interests, in ways that are more in alignment with what is healthy for you. And you are going to make better decisions about who you connect with, who you walk away from, where your boundaries are, sustaining your boundaries. And that's what I want for you. I want you to have beautiful, healthy love relationships with yourself, firstly, and with other people you have in your lives. So they may be intimate partners, and that's who we're talking about at this point in this episode. But understand that as you do this work, it won't just be those intimate partnerships that you start to apply these kinds of requirements to. You'll start to look at your family relationships, your friendships. You'll start to look at all these other relationships you have in your life, and you will go, this doesn't feel healthy for me, so I'm not going to participate in it. I'm walking away from this. I'm putting a boundary in place here. I recognize this is not good for me, so I'm walking away. And no, I'm not going to excuse that. I'm not going to bypass that behavior. And I'm also going to understand that part of me is saying that this is love, but I'm learning that that part of me is really connected into some unhealthy love stories that I need to unravel, and I'm going to get help to unravel those if I need help. And that's okay too, because we all have these stories running. We all do. I think that's more than enough for today's episode. I hope that you go and sit with those 2 questions. You reflect on what we've talked about today. And then over the coming days and weeks, you start to notice that you are going to be applying these new understandings in your life, and also noticing how your life changes as a result, and how you begin moving towards healthier connections with other people and with yourself. As always, thank you so much for joining me here today for this episode. I'm so glad you dropped by. I look forward to having your company again in the future. If you enjoyed this episode, if you found it useful, insightful in some way, please leave me a comment or a like or subscribe, wherever you are watching or listening to this episode. Send me a message. I'd love to hear from you. And if there are things that you would like me to talk more about, then absolutely let me know about what those topics are, and I can see how I might be able to weave those into upcoming episodes for you. Anyway, until next time, I'm wishing you so much healthy love in your life. You deserve it. And I hope that I can help you take even just some small steps on your path to achieving that for yourself. I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Thanks so much for your company today. If you feel more informed or empowered after listening to this podcast, please leave us a review or share this episode with a friend or family member. The music for today's podcast is brought to you by Dima Chisco from TuneTank. The opinions and perspectives offered on Medusa's mic are solely those of the interviewer and her guests. They are our expressed personal opinions and views. They are not intended to replace any treatment or advice you may be receiving from a licensed professional. If you have specific concerns or a situation in which you require professional, psychological, medical, or legal help, you should consult with an appropriately trained and qualified specialist. This episode is copyright protected and should not be reproduced in any form without express permission from the Medusa's Mic founder and host, Lucretia Ackfield.